There's one classic fantasy tabletop role-playing game that at its first publication in 1978 was hailed as something of a D&D killer. While it's never quite risen to the heights of the so-called world's greatest role-playing game, TM Wizards of the Coast, it does a lot of things right. Hey there, adventurers. My name is Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios, where we believe fun builds community. I'm a D&D fan, but I love to explore other game systems. And this one, well, it's not part of the old school revival, but it is old school. It's been around since the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons days. It's a game designed with a single setting in mind. The artwork in the book beautifully illustrates this magical Bronze Age fantasy world. After surviving corporate turmoil, changing hands a few times, and spawning other games like the RPG Mythos, its 6th edition returned it to the roots of its well-regarded 2nd edition, with a few new ideas thrown in. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 ways RuneQuest crushes Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and stick around to the end because I'm also going to talk about one way it misses the mark. Have you played RuneQuest? Are you a fan or not? Let me know in the comments. Number 1 on our list of ways RuneQuest crushes D&D, character customization. There are a lot of folks out there who are going to disagree with me because D&D is kind of known for its depth of character options, but stick with me for a minute. Character creation in D&D is based in the class level system that's been there since day one. In the beginning, D&D character sheets were pretty sparse because they didn't have skills or backgrounds or any of that. But today, they're packed with a variety of options, abilities, feats, equipment, and spells that have a big impact on gameplay, and skills, backgrounds, and backstories that arguably have little to no impact on the actual game. It's a real min-maxer's playground for figuring out the best combos to beat the system, and there's a lot of fun to be had there. But if I'm honest, the class level system doesn't feel like genuine character growth. RuneQuest, however, is the game that gave us Chaosium's basic role-playing system, in which character creation is not based on classes and levels. Instead, where skills in D&D are really little more than an afterthought, they serve as the basis of character building in RuneQuest, and there are a ton of them. These skills, along with your character's homeland and family history, create the character's background, not a vague job like acolyte or folk hero. While those backgrounds in D&D do provide you with some features and proficiencies, in RuneQuest, skills define everything about your character abilities and personality. It might seem like too much at first glance, but skills are a great basis for not only social encounters and combat, but for informing how your character would act when you're role-playing. And the real beauty of this system, since there are no classes and levels, is that there are nearly infinite options for character customization. If you want to be good at hiding and sword fighting and spirit dancing, you can. You can choose to be good at pretty much any combination of the available skills. RuneQuest uses a D100 system, so each of your skill scores is a percentage. And instead of leveling up, anytime you successfully use a skill, you have the opportunity to get better at it, to increase that percentage. So not only does RuneQuest give players a massive number of character variations, but character growth functions more like real life in a Bronze Age fantasy world. The second way RuneQuest crushes D&D is its absolutely brutal combat. RuneQuest is deliberately not balanced, because balance is boring, as I've said before and will say again. And I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but in my opinion, that makes it better. In the introduction to the 1979 Dungeon Master's Guide, Gary Gygax wrote that there were 2 schools of hobby games, as he called them: the realism simulation school and the game school. D&D was and still is of the game school. In fact, Gygax thought that trying for realism in a fantasy role-playing game was absurd. His word, not mine. There's no attempt at realism in D&D beyond those times when a DM has to make a call on something that stretches the suspension of disbelief to the breaking point. RuneQuest, though? RuneQuest is firmly in the simulation camp. Yes, it's fantasy. Yes, there are monsters and magic, but hit points don't run as high as in D&D, and you roll to determine the specific area of your opponent's body you hit, and a crit to the head could end combat in the first turn. Yeah, the opponent can dodge or parry, but Those aren't always guaranteed to work, and shields and weapons can be damaged or broken. This makes combat in RuneQuest much more complex than D&D combat and more lethal. It's so dangerous, in fact, that almost anything else is a better option than fighting if you want to be sure to, stay alive. Finally, the third way RuneQuest crushes Dungeons and Dragons, its old school design. Around the time of 3rd edition D&D, when characteristics of video games started making their way into D&D, creating the more modern game we have today, the old school revival, aka the OSR, began. Today's D&D has superheroic main character PCs and balanced combat encounters. The games of the OSR aren't about superheroes. The PCs may not even be heroes, and there's absolutely nothing that says they have to be central to some larger story. Neither the world nor the game system care whether your character survives, and probably your GM doesn't either. I mean, in most OSR games, rolling up a new character takes a matter of minutes. In fact, most rules in OSR games are sparse. OSR games are really not concerned with balanced encounters. There's no expectation that the fight will be fair, and if you understand how your character and the rules work, you'll win. There was no CR in AD&D. A party of level 1 PCs against the beholder? Sure. Where modern RPGs are designed to challenge the character, OSR games look to challenge the player. Back in the day, there were not rules for every possible situation. Players and GMs had to be creative in ways that we don't with D&D 5e. Andrew Logan Montgomery talks about this in a blog he wrote about RuneQuest. I'll link to it in the description. RuneQuest is not an OSR game. For one thing, it's maybe a little too complex in the area of character creation, for instance, which can take a good bit of time, but it does share a lot in common with those games. I've talked already about how brutal combat is. It's incredibly easy to die, and there's really no such thing as a balanced encounter in RuneQuest. And the way skills and character progression work, the PCs are anything but superheroes. They're just normal people trying to make their way in a made-up fantasy world. You know what I mean. And really and truly, OSR games and OSR adjacent games like RuneQuest just offer a different style of play from modern games like D&D 5e or Pathfinder. But in my opinion, these games capture what's great about role-playing games in a way that modern games just don't. They're challenging and they encourage creative thinking, and RuneQuest definitely fits that description. Drop a comment to let us know what you think about this list of ways I think RuneQuest absolutely crushes D&D. And coming up next, one way RuneQuest doesn't live up to the challenge. If you're looking for an imaginative, weird, and wonderful new setting to drop into your campaign, no matter which RPG you're running, check out The Wandering Tavern from today's sponsor, Homie and the Dude. The Wandering Tavern is a sprawling 180-page, system-agnostic, Studio Ghibli-inspired floating city. You get optional D&D 5e stats, huge battle maps, loads of unique NPCs, and cool magic items to protect yourself from the twisted spirits stalking the halls. With plot hooks that lead to dark, forgotten secrets, black market empires, and more, there are endless tales to tell in The Wandering Tavern. Hit the link in the description and use code SHORTREST to get 20% off your order. What's the one way RuneQuest fails to match up to D&D? I know you've been asking yourself all this time and possibly yelling at your screen, but adventurers, I can't hear you. The one way RuneQuest doesn't beat D&D: complexity. Yeah, I know. There are about 67,000 D&D books, but you only have to have 3 of them to actually play the game. I mean, really, you don't have to have any. And RuneQuest has one core rulebook, RuneQuest Role-Playing in Glorantha. But as complicated a process as character creation is in 5e, I think RuneQuest at least goes toe-to-toe with it. If you played Call of Cthulhu, you have a good idea what it's like. There's a massive list of skills to distribute, rolling stats, family history. If your character dies in combat, which is incredibly likely, you'll probably spend at least a couple hours creating a new one while the game continues without you. In combat, that's where the complexity really rears its head. There's this complicated initiative system called strike ranks that's based on your character's size, dex, weapon length, and magic points being used. As you would expect with initiative, it determines which attacks are resolved first, but it also determines whether you get to attempt additional actions on your turn. Then you roll percentile dice to attack, your opponent rolls to attempt to dodge or parry, you roll to see which body parts you hit and the damage. Maybe your enemy parried successfully, some of the damage is absorbed by their weapon, or maybe some is absorbed by their armor, and then your opponent's hit points go down. Oh yeah, you have sort of general hit points, but also your various body parts, legs, abdomen, chest, arms, and head, have hit points. There are extra combat rules for everything from special damage like impaling to mounted combat. There are tables for attacks, dodge and parry results, and fumbles. It does tend to go quickly though, especially since something terrible will probably happen in just a few rounds. It's a lot, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just may not be the fun you're looking for. That's it, adventurers. 3 ways RuneQuest crushes D&D and 1 it doesn't. Did I get it right or not? Let me know in the comments. If you got something out of this video and want more content like this, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And please consider supporting this channel by joining the Adventurers Guild at patreon.com/shortreststudios or by hitting the join button under the video. In the meantime, check out this video about why you need to try one of my absolutely favorite tabletop role-playing games. And I'll see you next time on Short Rest Studios.